Second Crusade. Ashes, oaths, and iron. From the ridge, smoke pillars stain the far battlefield. Robert halts behind William, breath heavy, shoulders lowered. William's eyes glisten, a vow forms at the edge of his lips. Robert stands a step behind, head bowed, hearing the unspoken promise. William whispers to the wind, a promise only the hills can keep. A roadside shrine flickers, candles cupped from the evening breeze. Priest Gerard steps from the dusk, palm raised in gentle blessing. William bows his head as the priest's murmured prayer settles. From the shadows, Isabella watches, tears bright in the fireglow. Robert lingers apart, anger gentled as candlelight steadies his breath. Lanterns glow over cobbles where their long road once began. William studies the square, remembering losses and hard-won grace. Robert watches William, anger cooled into loyal understanding. They step closer, sharing the weight of what cannot be spoken. Together, they face the lantern-lit street, calmer and resolved. Candlelit stone walls cradle a hush filled with remembered names. Gerard lowers his gaze, blessing those carried in their hearts. William's eyes sheen with grief, steadied by the quiet light. Robert kneels, fists unclench, surrender giving way to resolve. Three figures share silence, a vow unspoken yet deeply heard. Charred tents sag while embers drift, the ground is a blackened lattice of ash. William walks past wounded men, his steps slow, shoulders heavy with loss. Fatima binds a gash, steady hands working as tears glint in the flicker. William pauses near the flames as Fatima looks up, their shared grief unspoken. Robert stalks the shadowed edge, jaw tight, anger sparking under the smoke. A torn banner sighs over a blackened cart, sparks drift like tired stars. Robert drops to his knees beside William, breath ragged, eyes burning. William steadies Robert's shoulder, grief and resolve hardening together. They rise together, facing the ruined camp as the banner flutters weakly. In silence, a vow forms no grand words, only the will to continue. On the ridge, banners snap as 𝗦𝗦𝗡𝗏 lifts his blade. Below, Fatima steadies the line and answers his cold stare. William catches her signal and pivots his attention uphill. She signals a counter-advance, sharp and measured. For a heartbeat, their resolve hardens under the white Sunday. The defile erupts as blades flash and shields splinter. Robert barrels into an attacker, fury blazing through grit. William parries, fear and focus tightening his mouth. Back to back for an instant, they hold the narrowing throat. Debris rains as the crush surges, the choke grinding tighter. Sunbeams catch red droplets spinning through the heated air. Armor dings shine like stars as dust curls in ribbons. Across the ridge, 𝗦𝗦𝗧𝗏 surveys the struggle below. William meets his gaze, resolve hardening under the Sunday. A horn's wavering call threads through choking dust. She catches Robert's forearm and breaks through his fury. William marks the line and points to the fallback ridge. Reluctantly, Robert yields, breath ragged behind his helm. The line peels away in ragged order toward the fallback. Campfires bloom like scattered stars at the edge of darkness. Just beyond the glow, Robert paces the dark edge alone. William watches, steady, while the camp murmurs low. At last, their eyes meet across the dim lane and spoken truce. Across the bright field, the army tightens straps and tests steel. Hans glimpses Maria across the lane and breathes a steadier breath. Sun flashes on iron as Maria answers his nerves with quiet certainty. A standard snaps high as the ranks begin to align by companies. Hans squares his stance, the nod from Maria still steadying his hands. The column uncoils like steel rivers across the sunlit field. Dietrich rides near the king, their words clipped and precise. Conrad signals a pace hold while scouts fan ahead of the van. Dietrich replies with a terse confirmation and keeps the line tight. The lines surge forward again, the march settling into its rhythm. Dry hills rise under a white sun as dust veils the narrowing trail. William rides at the point while Robert scans the flanks sharply. A cairn and fresh hoof gouges hint at riders not far ahead. Robert points upslope, jaw tight, urging a slower, quieter pace. The vanguard threads into the pinch, every eye on the high stones. The defile looms, stone shouldering inward as dust swirls. From a ledge, Fatima signals down, eyes fierce and precise. William relays the sign, shifting the vanguard into tighter order. Fatima's glance sweeps the ridge, measuring danger and route alike. The column inches forward, every hafal counting in the choke. Arrows rip from the ridge as dust erupts and horses rear. Robert roars, shield up, as William drags a wounded rider to cover. The ridge swarms with archers, banners whipping above lamellar armor. William signals a pull to stone while Robert anchors the front. The first volley ebbs, leaving dust and shocked breaths in the pass. Merchants crowd the cobbles as William and Robert press into the square. Warm lamplight flickers from the tavern door, a beacon in the bustle. William hesitates, worry deepening. Robert pushes forward with iron purpose. They thread between bodies, reading scars and stories on every face. Robert signals the tavern. William nods, resolve taking hold. Warm lamplight washes carved tables as patrons murmur over steaming trenchers. Isabella steps close, love and worry etched as William steals his jaw. Their hands almost touch on the table, a promise hovering unsaid. William looks away, resolve hardening. Isabella breathes, holding steady. A murmur swells and sinks, their choice settles like coals in the grate. A narrow lane funnels townsfolk, stone walls dampen the gray daylight. Priest Gerard steps beside Robert, calm hand steadying the storm. Robert exhales, the flare fading. The priest's grip remains gentle. They move with purpose, the lane spitting them back toward the square. A candlelit back room hums as locals lean in, ears hungry for news. William faces Priest Gerard across the table, tension softened by faith. A vow forms, William's mouth tightens as Gerard nods, accepting. The room exhales, listeners trade glances. Decision settling like dust. Gerard's blessing hovers unspoken. William inclines, grateful and steeled. Flags ripple as vendors weigh cloth, children thread between carts. William turns back toward Isabella. She clutches a ribbon with trembling care. She presses the ribbon into his palm, his fingers close, duty warring with love. William softens, nodding once. Isabella breathes, steady despite fear. The square surges again. They part with a look that anchors them both. William confronts Robert with the damning note clenched in his fist. Robert redirects the fury. Eyes hard, toward the unseen buyer of treachery. Their brotherhood holds anger cooling into a hard, shared purpose. They set their plan in motion, each accepting the weight of the night. Robert turns to the flap. William keeps the proof close for the battles ahead. Gray dawn spreads over, ranks forming, breath fogging in the chill air. A shared look passes, resolve sharpened by the night's revelations. William rides the line, steadying hearts with measured presence. Robert steals the right flank, anger forged into command. Ranks close, the field hushes to the breath before the storm. The first black swarm of arrows climbs and begins to fall. Robert seals his visor and breathes rage into control. William's command hand carves the air, holding the center firm. Impact drums along the line. Robert braces his men for the push. The second wave rises, the command holds like iron. hooves thunder as opposing flanks swing to collide. Robert sights the commander through churned mud and shadows. The gap closes, air thick with breath and torn soil. Lines crash, the field becomes a storm of iron and leather. Through chaos, two paths bend inexorably toward a duel. Lines smash together, mud and steel swallow all finesse. He turns back into the crush, blade raised with tight resolve. The push grinds, every step costs breath and blood. He finds a breath's space, eyes flicking for any opening. The line holds by inches, William steps back into the storm. The tavern hushes as William and Robert pause beneath the smoking lamps. Robert grips William's forearm, anger tempered by unspoken loyalty. A silent exchange of vows passes between them in the doorway glow. They release the clasp and step toward the cooling evening beyond. The tavern's warmth fades as the night air claims their silhouettes. Torches sputter as pilgrims queue under the looming gate arch. Priest Gerard lifts a steady hand, blessing William by the fireglow. From the shadows, Isabella watches, tears bright against the flame. William glances back toward Isabella, resolve and tenderness entwined. The gate creaks, and the line shuffles forward into the night road. Morning light washes a sea of tents, banners waking in a pale breeze. King Conrad rides past Dietrich, their armored profiles set like stone. Lines of cavalry form, lances tilting as leather and steel settle. Conrad surveys the field, the horizon mirrored in his deep-set gaze. Dietrich wheels his horse, signaling units to ready the march. Between hard shadows of canvas, horse sweat steams in the cool Sunday. Hans tests his bowstring, breath quick, hope and nerves braided tight. Maria knots a bandage pouch to his belt with practiced, quiet care. They share a brief smile, the lane's dust holding the moment still. A trumpet call turns both heads, duty reclaims their attention. Inside the great tent, a sunshaft cuts across a map-strewn table. Conrad studies routes while Dietrich indicates a mountain pass. Standards ripple at the flap as decisions harden into orders. Conrad's gloved hand closes over the pass marker, claim accepted. Orders pass outward, the tent exhaling purpose into the camp. Arrows hiss through the overcast light as William searches for a gap. 𝗦𝗦𝗧𝗏 lifts his hand, calm and implacable, cueing the next deadly volley. Impact shreds shields, splinters and mud burst as men huddle and endure. Through the downpour, William points, steadying the center with a firm signal. 𝗦𝗦𝗧𝗏 lowers his hand, and the ridge darkens as bowstrings draw in unison. Smoke coils low, Robert sights 𝗦𝗦𝗧𝗏 through embers and drifting ash. Steel meets with a burst of sparks, Robert drives forward, relentless. A faint open space, 𝗦𝗦𝗧𝗏 circles, measuring Robert with cold patience. Robert batters the guard aside, rage hammers through muscle and steel. Caught in the haze, Robert hesitates, 𝗦𝗦𝗧𝗏 slips free like shadow. The line buckles, William shouts for Robert to pull back through the crush. Under a torn banner, they converge, faces streaked with grime and resolve. A surge slams the flank, shields tilt, boots skid, and gaps rip open. Robert covers the withdrawal, stance wide, defiance burning in his eyes. William's command cuts through the chaos, together they begin the fallback. Wind tears the banners, William and Fatima brace a wavering knot of survivors. Fatima's calm cuts through fear, her gesture resets the line one step tighter. Exhaustion creases William's face, still, his hand signals. Hold fast. A lull opens, Fatima leans close, courage lending William a breath of steadiness. They set feet to stone, the ridge hardens into a line, thin but unbroken. Dusk bleeds across smoke, a mournful horn calls the retreat at last. Robert looks to William, despair battles fury before duty wins. They turn together, the line ripples backward toward the smoldering camp. A final look back seals the choice, Battered flags sink in the gathering night. William's nod answers Robert's gaze. Retreat becomes order, not collapse. Fatima kneels beside William as tired soldiers murmur around the fire. She speaks softly. William steadies his breath and meets her gaze. Across the flames, Robert listens in silence, gaze fixed on the ground. William nods once. Fatima's calm steadies the circle's faltering spirits. Robert finally looks up, the anger cooling into hard-edged resolve. Inside the small tent, lamplight warms canvas and deepens the hush. William rubs his temples as Fatima sets down a wooden mug. Their faces fill the frame, words few, meanings heavy and clear. A faint draft stirs the flap as Robert pauses outside the tent. William steadies himself. Fatima holds his gaze, resolve returning. At the smoky edge of camp, cloaked sentries shift against the chill wind. Robert and William face each other across a dim lane, eyes hard and honest. A silent nod passes between them before both turn toward the dark hills. They step to the perimeter, shapes reduced to silhouettes against starlight. They hold the line in silence, anger tempered into shared vigilance. Mud and stone homes cluster as wary villagers watch from doorways. Fatima walks ahead, palms raised. William lowers his hood, gaze softening. A child peeks from behind a door as elders measure every step. Fatima slows her pace. William mirrors her calm with a nod. Mutual caution settles into a first breath of possible trust. Stalls sag under grain baskets and textiles as animals tug at their tethers. William speaks quietly with Fatima near a stall, shoulders softened. Two wrinkled elders hover nearby, their mouths tight with unease. Fatima's steady voice eases the air while William nods agreement. Whispers lessen. The marketplace resumes its breath under the Sunday. Flags ripple as armored riders enter the cheering street. Lewis leans closer, his greeting brief and weighed by memory. The crowd's murmurs mix awe with rumors of distant failures. Armor flashes. The two kings hold the street's solemn rhythm. A final nod seals respect before the column moves on. Stone walls rise as the square hushes beneath the towers. Conrad dismounts, boots meeting cobble with weary certainty. He clasps William's forearm, gratitude heavy and unspoken. The city breathes in loss, honored, courage recognized. William lifts his chin, carrying a burden that no title shares. Sunlight drifts through banners as the column thins and slows. Robert reins in as a child steps forward with a single flower. His eyes soften. William watches with a faint, knowing smile. Petals brush steel. The child's grin mirrors the city's relief. The column moves again, lighter by a measure unseen. Golden light spills as the familiar tavern opens its arms. Isabella rushes forward, breath catching before she speaks. William folds into her arms, armor creaking against linen. Bread and cups wait, a quiet promise of ordinary life. William exhales, a weight easing he hadn't noticed he carried. Banners hang in shafts of light above polished stone. Conrad stands by the map table as Lewis listens, grave and still. A finger traces roots where steel and hope unraveled. Lewis's gaze hardens not vengeance but responsibility. Around them, the court absorbs lessons written in loss. Lanterns bloom as vendors shutter stalls and voices soften. William and Robert return to the place where it began. Lantern light mirrors in their eyes loss counted, hope measured. The tavern door breathes warmth, inviting a quieter tomorrow. Side by side, they share the weight that once bent them. Villagers draw water, eyes flicking between the strangers at the well. At William and at Robert face each other across the well, distance measured in silence. A child pauses mid-step, the buckets slosh freezing the square. 𝗦𝗦𝗏 reads the fear in their faces, jaw set against rising fury. Between them, the well's dark mouth reflects the village's unease. Dust hangs in bright shafts as goats jostle against the wooden rails. 𝗦𝗏𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗗𝗘 kneels to calm a frightened child at the fence corner. 𝗦𝗏𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗗𝗘 watches from a step away, a guarded smile easing his features. A goat bleats inches from the lens, the fence framing the village's quiet. Reassured, the child lets go, the pen settles to a patient rhythm. From the terrace, the hush of barter drifts over a tense marketplace. 𝗦𝗏𝗧𝗦𝗏 steps to the parapet, scanning the horizon beyond the rooftops. 𝗦𝗏𝗏 climbs the steps to stand shoulder to shoulder with 𝗦𝗏𝗏. They share a silent assessment, the wind tugging their travel-worn cloaks. Below, villagers resume motion, watching the horizon as the breeze freshens. Mist coils around crates as figures whisper in a shadowed pocket of camp. 𝗦𝗏𝗏 emerges from darkness, steps soft, eyes locked on the exchange. Greed and fear carve the traders' faces as the paper changes hands. A shift of boot on mud, heads snap up as 𝗦𝗏𝗏 closes the gap. The secret's weight hangs heavy, the camp beyond seems to hold its breath. 𝗦𝗏𝗏 wrenches the paper free as a trader recoils into shadow. Betrayal burns in his eyes, the camp's smoke thickens the night air. One conspirator falters, another's hand inches toward a hidden knife. 𝗦𝗏𝗏's fury peaks but he holds, resolve hardening to purpose. Shadows swallow the cowed men as 𝗦𝗏𝗏 turns with the proof in hand.